welcome to the deep dive. You shared a fascinating stack of sources with us, really a masterclass in linguistic minefields, detailing some of the trickiest, most frustratingly similar words and phrases in English. Our mission today is, well, simple but crucial. We're taking those sources and refining them into practical, immediately applicable knowledge. We want to go beyond just the definitions, right? Get into the grammatical precision.
That's absolutely essential. Yeah. English is, well, it's notoriously riddled with traps. I mean, even native speakers often rely on instinct or, habit rather than the genuine rule,
Right.
which means they sometimes get it wrong. So today's deep dive is really designed to give you a powerful shortcut to mastering these nuances. We want your communication to achieve, well, maximum precision and clarity, moving you from just sounding fluent to sounding genuinely well-informed.
I love that call.
Yeah.
Precision knowledge. Okay, so we've got 10 distinct areas of potential stumbling today. We're tackling everything from how to handle determiners of quantity like when do you use all the versus the whole, to the subtle but really important differences between verbs of repetition. We're aiming for those specific, satisfying aha moments, you know, the kind that stick with you the next time you write an important email or have a demanding conversation.
Definitely. Let's get straight into it then. We'll start with a pair that is, well, structurally confusing because both phrases seem to indicate totality, all the versus the whole.
Right. Both of these, they signal that 100% of something is involved, but we can't use them interchangeably. So what's the fundamental grammatical concept dictating the choice here?
Okay, the core distinction revolves entirely around the noun type they precede. Specifically, we need to differentiate between singular countable nouns and nouns that are either plural or uncountable. That classification, it dictates everything.
All right, let's focus on the singular countable noun first. So if I'm talking about one single item, something I can physically isolate and count, what do I use?
You must use the whole. The structure is always the whole, plus that singular countable noun. Think of the whole as emphasizing a single indivisible unit that you're consuming or observing or, talking about in its entirety. Our sources use some excellent examples, like, you said, did you watch the whole game? You're referring to one complete unit of time or one single match.
Right.
Or the whole book was boring. Again, emphasizing that 100% of that single item was involved.
That makes sense, yeah. It really highlights the completeness of that single unit.
Okay.
Okay, now what about the alternative? If the noun is plural, meaning there are many items, or if it's uncountable, like an abstract concept.
Then you default to all these. So if you're referring to a group of countable items, for instance, I've watched all the videos you've made. The plural noun videos requires all the. It refers to every single item in that collective group.
Okay.
And this also applies to uncountable nouns, substances or abstract concepts that you can't count individually.
Right. Can you give us a few more concrete examples of those uncountable nouns?
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's often where people trip up.
Certainly. Yeah, think about nouns like guidance, information, support, or money. You have to say, thank you for all the guidance, help, and support. You're referring to the entire amount of support, but because support isn't countable, you can't say one support, two supports.
Yeah.
It takes all the...
Got it. Okay, this leads us straight to the common mistakes that they sound almost correct, but they violate this core rule. The sources highlighted some things we really need to actively listen for and, well, correct.
Yes, these common errors are vital to avoid. The first major one is mixing up the countable singular rule. You should not say, all the book was boring.
Right.
Since book is singular and countable, the only correct option is the whole book.
And the second major error, and this one is super common when talking about time duration, is applying all the beats to single units of time, like day, night, or weekend. You absolutely do not say, I studied all the day.
Oh, that's a huge flag. Yeah. It shows the speaker is missing this rule. For those standard, single defined units of time, day, night, weekend, month, year, you must use the whole. I studied the whole day.
Why? Because you're treating the day as one complete single unit.
Exactly. That's the logic.
Okay. And the last error is sort of reversing the plural rule. I can't say, I ate the whole cookies.
Precisely, yeah. If you have plural cookies, you must say all the cookies. Now, if you only ate one, you can use the whole cookie.
Ah, okay.
The grammatical application is, well, pretty simple once you see it, but it does require that split-second decision. Is the noun singular countable? If yes, use the whole. Otherwise, it's all the.
So the core nugget here, the takeaway, is really recognizing the noun type before you choose your determiner. That's the critical application point.
That's it, exactly. Okay, let's move on. Another distinction that causes significant trouble because the definitions are so close. Recur versus reoccur. Both mean happen again, right?
Right.
But that slight change in prefix signals a massive difference in pattern and expectation.
Yeah, the source material really stresses that the key to this pair is the idea of pattern. So how does the structure of recur specifically convey this predictability?
Okay, so recur means to happen again repeatedly or periodically. It establishes a consistent, expected pattern. The event is, scheduled or cyclical or chronic. Think of it as having a structure.
So if I use a time indicator like every week or monthly, then recur is basically mandatory.
Precisely, yeah. If there's an expectation of regularity, you have to use recur. Financial examples are perfect for this. My Netflix bill recurs every month. Or if we shift to health, a chronic issue recurs. My migraines recur every week. Or, psychologically, if a dream repeats itself, it's a recurring dream. You're talking about a structural phenomenon that will, by definition, happen again and again.
That sounds almost mathematical, like an event plotted on a timeline. What's the fundamental difference then with recurs?
Reoccur is much more straightforward, actually. It simply means to happen again, but, and this is the key, with absolutely no implication of a continuing pattern or periodicity, it's more like an isolated, maybe accidental second or third incident. It just happens again, perhaps unexpectedly.
Okay, so if a light bulb blows out in my kitchen, and then I replace it, and the new one blows out an hour later, that event has reoccurred, but I don't assume I'm now entering, a weekly light bulb blowing cycle.
That's a perfect scenario. Exactly. You hope the problem is solved and that the event does not reoccur. You're hoping it doesn't happen again at all, not that it stops happening predictably. The difference kind of comes from the subtle etymology. While means, again, reoccur, emphasizes the second specific occurrence, not necessarily a series.
Right. I sometimes hear people misusing reoccur in a professional context, maybe talking about something like a mandatory monthly meeting.
That's a classic error, yeah. If you say the mandatory meeting reoccurred, you're sort of implying that the monthly meeting happened once unexpectedly and then maybe happened again, also unexpectedly.
Which isn't right for a scheduled meeting.
Exactly. If it's mandatory and monthly, it's structured and cyclical. Therefore, the meeting recurs every first Monday.
Okay, let's use the software testing example from the sources to really lock this down. It seemed to address both predictability and randomness really well.
Absolutely. Good idea.
Yeah.
Think of software deployment. Our sources highlight that small glitches may reoccur after the update because, they might just be random, isolated events that happen to crop up twice.
Okay.
But a fundamental design flaw, that creates a structural problem, meaning true bugs will often recur until the patch is released because the underlying issue basically guarantees a pattern of repeated failure.
I see. So the immediate rule check for you, the listener, is, does this happen again and again like a pattern? If yes, use recur. If it's just a repeat of a single event, maybe unexpectedly, use reoccur. That shift in expectation is everything.
Precisely. This next pair is tricky because, the words are almost identical phonetically when you say them quickly, right? Such as and as such. But their grammatical roles are worlds apart. One is for defining examples, and the other is for defining consequence or role.
Such as seems like the easier one to master. It feels purely illustrative.
That's right, yeah. Such as is used solely to introduce examples that support a general idea or category. It functions pretty much like, for example, or including. So if you're discussing broad categories, such as helps you narrow the focus with specific instances.
Can you give us the vitamin example again? Maybe elaborate slightly on the grammatical structure this time.
Sure. Some fruits, such as oranges and apples, are high in vitamin C. So grammatically, oranges and apples are illustrations of the category some fruits.
Right.
And you could be listing multiple examples. Some tropical regions, such as Southeast Asia and parts of Central America, experience high humidity. It's just an illustrative function leading the reader or listener to specific instances.
Okay, that covers illustration pretty clearly. Now, the more formal and, definitely more confusing phrase, as such. You mentioned it's an adverbial phrase dealing with capacity or consequence. Let's break down its grammatical role first.
Okay. As such is an adverbial modifier. That means it modifies the entire preceding clause or concept. It connects the status or definition that's already been established in the first part of the sentence to the consequence that follows. You can often translate it as in that capacity or maybe because of that status.
I often see people use as such when defining their professional role. How does that capacity function work exactly?
Well, you have to first establish the status. For example, I'm a teacher, and as such, meaning in the capacity of being a teacher, I spend most days preparing lessons.
Ah, okay.
The action, preparing lessons, is presented as a direct result of the stated role teacher. If you skip that initial definition, the phrase as such becomes kind of meaningless.
Right. And the consequence function, how does that work?
This is used to introduce a result that stems directly from a previous condition or fact, like the device is experimental. As such, meaning because of its experimental status, it comes with numerous warnings and disclaimers. The warnings are a direct consequence of that experimental status.
What's fascinating about as such, though, is that because it functions as this adverbial phrase clarifying or emphasizing the link between two clauses, it's often technically optional, isn't it?
That's the crucial test for the listener, actually, yeah. If you're debating whether you should have used as such, try removing it. If the meaning of the sentence still holds together grammatically without it, like the device is experimental, it comes with warnings, then as such was used correctly, probably to add emphasis or clarify that logical connection.
But if you remove such as,
Well, if you remove such as, you lose the crucial examples, and the sentence often collapses or changes meaning entirely.
okay, so the structure test is key. If I see categories such as list of specifics, that's examples. If I see status fact, as such, consequence action, that's indicating role or result. Let's use that complex breakdown sentence from our source one more time just to cement it.
Good idea. Certain careers, such as law and medicine, those are examples of careers, require years of study. And as such, meaning as a consequence of requiring study, they are not easy to enter.
Perfect. One introduces the illustration, the other introduces the logical consequence. Mastering this pair really does demonstrate a sophisticated grasp of, well, more formal English prose.
It really does.
Next up, we dive into phrasal verbs related to personal care. Wash up and freshen up. Both are about cleaning oneself, clearly, but the social and grammatical usage is very distinct.
Yeah, this is really a matter of scope. Wash up is specific and often feels, well, mandatory in context. Freshen up is much broader, more inclusive, and generally optional.
When I hear wash up, especially maybe in the US context, it almost always implies washing hands before eating. Is that the primary definition we should focus on?
It is definitely the most common application, yes. Wash up is a phrasal verb, meaning primarily to wash your hands. The context is usually necessity, removing dirt, germs, preparing for a meal. Like you were just playing outside, please wash up before dinner.
Right.
It can occasionally mean washing one's face or neck too, but hands are the default meaning.
Now, you flagged a crucial grammatical rule here in the source material, a detail that many non-native speakers, and maybe even some natives, get wrong. It involves how these phrasal verbs handle objects.
This is critical for precision, yes. When you use wash up as the phrasal verb, you do not add the direct object hands. Phrasal verbs often function intransitively, meaning the action is complete without needing a direct object, or the object is just implied by the verb itself. Therefore, you should never say, I just need to wash up my hands.
Wait, why not exactly? I mean, I understand it's redundant. Why is it strictly incorrect?
Because you're essentially confusing two different structures. The phrasal verb structure and the simple verb structure. You have to choose one. Either use the complete phrasal verb without the object, I just need to wash up, or use the simple transitive verb, wash, with its object, I just need to wash my hands. If you try to insert the object after the phrasal verb, you break the phrasal verb structure. The phrase wash up has sort of taken on the meaning of performing the action of hand washing, independent of needing the object spelled out.
Huh. That has a fascinating layer of detail.
Yeah.
It really elevates this from just a simple vocabulary difference to a structural point. Okay, now let's contrast that with the more inclusive option, freshen up.
Right. Freshen up is far broader and generally voluntary. It means to quickly tidy or groom oneself to feel or look refreshed. This covers really everything from quick fixes, checking your teeth, running a comb through your hair, reapplying lipstick, maybe using mouthwash, or even just stretching and taking a deep breath after a long flight.
So if I say, I need 10 minutes to freshen up after that cross-country drives, I'm basically signaling that I need a general spruce up before facing people. It's more about appearance or comfort, not necessarily a hygiene mandate.
Precisely, yeah. It implies preparing for appearance or just feeling better. The context provided in the source illustrates the scope difference perfectly. I understand you needed to wash up, meaning clean necessary dirt germs from your hands, but why are you freshening up? Doing hair and applying lipstick. It's just your neighbor coming over for a casual chat.
Right. One's a necessity, the other's a choice.
Exactly. Wash up is often about necessity or basic hygiene. Freshen up is more about a grooming choice, often for social readiness.
The distinction seems clear then.
Yeah.
Wash up is specific hygiene, usually hands, and grammatically intransitive is a phrasal verb. Freshen up is quick, general grooming, and usually a preparation for social interaction or just feeling better.
You've got it. Okay, this next segment tackles two different modal problems that often get confused. First, the spelling difference related to possibility.
Yes, the one-word, two-word trap.
Exactly. And second, the nuance of using modals for polite requests. Hashtag, maybe one word versus maybe two words.
They sound identical when spoken, so this is purely a written grammar and structural issue, right? But choosing the wrong one instantly reveals a lack of precision in writing.
Exactly right. Maybe, spelled as one word, is a single standalone adverb. It's fully interchangeable with perhaps, and it modifies the entire sentence to convey uncertainty.
Okay.
Because it's an adverb, it often sits quite neatly at the beginning or sometimes the end of a clause or sentence. For example, maybe it's a good idea to check the schedule, or he's at home, maybe. It functions as an overall modifier of probability for the whole statement.
So it kind of sets the tone for the entire statement that follows it.
Correct. Now contrast that with maybe, spelled as two words. This is a functional verb phrase. It consists of the modal verb may followed by the base verb be. This construction must follow a subject, forming the core predicate of the sentence to indicate possibility.
Ah, I see the structural difference now. You couldn't just start a main clause with may be. You have to have a subject performing that possible state of being first.
That's the structural litmus test. Exactly. You must say, he may be at home, or the meeting may be delayed. Subject plus may be plus the rest of the predicate. If you try to switch them, the sentence breaks grammatically. You cannot say may be delayed if you intend it to be the main verb structure of the clause. It has to be subject plus may be plus predicate.
Got it. One's an adverb, one's a verb phrase. Hashtag, may versus can in requests.
Okay, now for the second part. May versus can in requests. This is a social and grammatical distinction that often causes, well, overcorrection in learners, I find. We are all taught, usually as kids, that may is the most polite permission-seeking form. You know, the classic, may I go to the bathroom?
Right. But the adult professional or genuinely fluent rule for may is surprisingly restrictive, isn't it? Especially in modern usage.
It is critically narrow, yes. The polite, permission-seeking use of may is almost exclusively reserved for when the subject is I or we. This is really a functional rule of modern English. It indicates the speaker seeking permission for themselves or for their group.
Okay, so if the subject is I can use may to be polite. May I help Johnny with the art project? That sounds fine.
Absolutely correct. Sounds perfectly natural and polite. But if you shift the subject away from I or we, using may to ask someone else to do something becomes grammatically awkward, actually. It can sound overly formal or even a bit demanding, which is kind of the opposite of polite. You must never say, may you help me, or may she help me.
Really? Never. So if I can't use may for asking others, what takes its place for requesting action from them politely?
You simply switch to can, or even better for politeness, the more deferential and softer could. For general requests, the adult world relies heavily on these. Can you help me with this project? Or even better, could you help me with this project? They are professional, clear, and grammatically standard for those subjects.
It seems like maybe people use may you because they hear may I, and they mistakenly extrapolate the rule to all subjects, thinking they're being extra polite.
That is exactly the source of the error, I think. Yeah, they're attempting to elevate the politeness level, but because the structure is non-standard for that function, it just sounds stiff or archaic. May you is generally reserved for very formal or slightly old-fashioned blessings or wishes like, may you live long and prosper, not for everyday transactional requests.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's use the source's combined example to summarize this subject restriction clearly.
Good idea. May I go outside and can Sarah join me? See? Since the first subject is I, may is correct for asking permission. But since the second subject is Sarah, equivalent to she, you switch to can to ask about her capacity or permission to join. That single sentence elegantly captures the entire rule set and practice.
Perfect. That really clarifies it. All right, let's change gears completely now and look at how precise vocabulary is essential when discussing specific contexts, like driving. Line versus lane. The difference here feels like it's between the marker and the defined area itself.
Exactly. The distinction is physical and spatial. A line is essentially one-dimensional. It's a noun representing a row or a boundary. It's static. It's the physical paint, the chalk, the marker itself.
Okay.
A lane, on the other hand, is two-dimensional. It's a space. It's the dynamic area that is bounded by those lines.
Okay, so when I'm parking my car, the boundaries I'm trying to stay within are the lines.
Precisely. You're checking your position relative to the painted boundaries. Am I within the lines? Or the complaint is about the physical markings themselves. They really need to repaint the lines. This rule applies pretty much everywhere a boundary is defined. Goal lines in sports, property lines, maybe the chalk line on a chalkboard.
Right. And conversely, the space I occupy while I'm actually driving, the division of the road itself, that's the lane.
Correct. A lane is the defined division of a road allocated for a single stream of vehicles. It's the navigable space. Actions relate to the lane.
Yeah.
You change lanes, you stay in your lane, you complain about the lane next to you moving faster. I get nervous every time I change lanes on the highway. It's about the space.
I sometimes hear people incorrectly say, you need to stay in your lines. That sounds visually descriptive, maybe, but technically it should be lane, shouldn't it?
Absolutely. Stay in your lane is the correct and idiomatic expression. It instructs a driver to remain in their designated area of traffic. If you tell someone to stay in their lines, yeah, it's probably understood, but it focuses incorrectly on the boundary rather than the functional space. We drive in lanes which are defined by lines.
Okay. And we can employ this distinction outside of highways too, right? Like you mentioned sports.
Sure. Yes, definitely. Think about sports. A running track has multiple lanes, right? And those lanes are separated by painted lines. In a swimming pool, you occupy a swimming lane. The consistency across these contexts reinforces the idea that the lane is the space designed for a specific purpose or movement.
Right. Okay. The ultimate clarifying example from the source wraps them up perfectly.
Right.
I can't even tell if I'm in my lane because the lines are so faded. The lane is the space. The lines are the markers defining that space.
Exactly. Once you see it that way, it's quite clear. All right, this next pair is purely about structural mechanics, but it frequently separates professional documentation from more casual writing. It's about whether a time period is describing a noun, acting as an adjective, or acting as a noun phrase indicating duration. The result dictates whether you use a hyphen and whether you use the plural s.
Yeah, this comes up constantly. Contracts, warranties, any kind of policy where time is a factor. Let's tackle the adjective form first.
Yeah.
When the time period is describing something, how do we structure it?
Okay. When a time period functions as a single adjective, you follow the number plus dash plus day, week, month, year rule. This entire hyphenated phrase functions as one singular adjective modifying the noun that comes after it. And crucially, it never takes a plural s, regardless of the number.
Never, even if it's like 30 days.
Never when it's acting as the adjective. The hyphen binds the words together into a single descriptive unit.
So the hyphen is the key signal that these words are working together as one unit to describe another word.
Exactly. The hyphen transforms the phrase from potentially two separate words, like 30 days, into one singular descriptor. So you must say, I just finished a 30-day soup diet, or it's a 7-day vacation. Note that you would never write a 30 days diet. The S is dropped because it's acting as a descriptive modifier, not as a measurement of time itself in that position.
Ah, okay. That structural role is the key.
Yeah.
But if the time period is acting as a standalone noun phrase simply indicating duration, then the rule flips, right?
Yes, exactly. Then the phrase stands on its own as a measurement of duration. The structure is just number plus days, weeks, months, years. And the normal rule of pluralization applies naturally here. The time unit word, day, week, etc. must be plural if the number is greater than 1.
So we need to pay attention to the quantity then.
Absolutely. The warranty is valid for 30 days. Since 30 is greater than 1, we use the plural days. If it were singular, we revert. I was on vacation for 1 day, no S, but I was on vacation for 7 days, requires the S. Here, the time unit is acting as a quantifiable noun itself, measuring the period.
What's a good internal check for the listener? How can they quickly decide?
Look at what surrounds the phrase. If the time period is preceded by a preposition like for or over, like for 30 days, you're probably indicating duration and need the plural noun form, if the number 1.
Okay.
If the time period is preceded by an article, A or V, and immediately followed by the noun it describes, like a 30-day plan, then it's acting as an adjective and requires the hyphen and the singular structure, no S on day.
Let's use the quiz example from the source to confirm. The warranty is valid for 30 days. That's duration, a noun phrase. But we have a 1-year plan. It's an adjective describing the plan.
Perfect. Yeah. Precision in business writing especially relies heavily on getting this distinction right. Okay, this next pair is often debated, especially across different dialects and informal speech, because it pits the strict rules of grammar against very common informal conversational usage. Real versus really. This is the classic adjective versus adverb problem.
Right. And at the highest level, the basic rule we learn is real is the adjective, meaning genuine or true, and really is the adverb, meaning very or actually.
That's the core rule.
Correct.
Real is an adjective, and by definition, adjectives modify nouns. So you use real when you're talking about a thing being genuine, that news was a real surprise, or she is a real friend. It describes the authenticity or genuineness of the noun it immediately precedes.
Okay. And
Really is the adverb form. Adverbs modify verbs or other adverbs, or, and this is where the vast majority of confusion happens, they modify adjectives, usually serving as an intensifier. So if you want to convey degree or intensity about an adjective, you must use the adverb really.
for example,
That novel was really eye-opening. Here really modifies the adjective eye-opening, or it was really nice of you to help. Here really modifies the adjective nice.
okay, standard adverb usage.
Yeah.
But this is where we need to address the cultural elephant in the room, as you say. We constantly hear native speakers, particularly in informal settings, or maybe certain regional dialects, say things like, that pasta was real good, or he runs real fast.
And that is the moment where grammatical precision absolutely clashes with fluent common usage.
Yeah.
Technically, real good and real fast are incorrect. Since good and fast in that context are adjectives, they should be modified by an adverb. Therefore, the technically correct phrases are, that pasta was really good and he runs really fast. Really serves as the required intensifier.
So if the goal for you, our listener, is professional communication, sounding knowledgeable, and, well, correct, should you avoid real good entirely, even though you hear it?
For formal writing and professional speech, absolutely, yes. While listeners should certainly recognize that real good exists in rapid, casual speech and understand its meaning, they must know it is grammatically flawed. If you're learning the rules and aiming for precision, you should hold the line. When you're modifying an adjective or an adverb, you use the adverb really. For clarity and correctness, there's no ambiguity there in the formal rule.
So if I want to tell someone about a genuine surprise, I'd say, that was a real surprise. Adjective modifying the noun surprise. But it was really surprising. Adverb modifying the adjective surprising.
That perfectly captures the rule set. Yes. You use real to describe the authenticity of the thing, the noun, and really to describe the intensity of the description, the adjective or adverb. All right, we finished today with the notorious trio of personal pronouns. I, me, and myself. Getting this distinction right is, well, non-negotiable for clear communication. It fundamentally defines the role of the speaker within the sentence. Are you the subject, the performer of the action, the object, the receiver of the action, or is it reflexive, where the action is self-directed?
Okay, let's begin with I. This is the subject pronoun, the person or entity performing the action.
Right. The rules for I are pretty straightforward. First, I performs the action. Second, and this is more a rule of courtesy that's commonly taught in English, when you are part of a group performing the action, I always comes last. It's considered polite to mention the other people before yourself. So you say, Sarah and I will handle the presentation.
Never I and Sarah.
Never I and Sarah. And the major error we hear constantly in this context is people using the object pronoun where the subject pronoun is required.
You mean like
saying, me and Sarah will handle it. That's incorrect. If you are the one performing the verb will handle, you must use the subject pronoun I, so Sarah and I.
Got it. Okay, next, the object, me. This is the pronoun for the person receiving the action, or maybe receiving the benefit of a preposition.
Exactly. If the pronoun is the object of a verb, or if it follows a preposition like to, for, with, between, then me is mandatory. Learning English sets me up for success. Here, me receives the action of being set up.
Okay.
Or, please send the final agenda to only me. Here, me is the object of the preposition to.
Okay, this is where the most common grammatical overcorrection seems to happen. Often when people are trying really hard to sound more formal or educated, they insist on saying things like, please send the file to John and I.
Oh, that is the #1 pronoun pitfall, absolutely. Our source gives us the ultimate simple test. Just mentally remove the other person from the sentence.
Ah, okay.
If you take John out of that sentence, would you say, please send the file to I?
No, definitely not. You'd say, send it to me.
Exactly. Therefore, when John is present, you must still use the object pronoun me. So the correct form is, Please send the file to John and me, because both John and you are objects of the preposition to.
That simple removal test is really powerful for instant correction. Okay, finally, myself, the reflexive pronoun.
Right. Myself has only one primary function, grammatically speaking. It's used when the subject and the object of the verb are the same person. The action is directed back onto the speaker. It reflects the action back to the I.
Examples.
I set myself up for failure. I set who? Me, so myself.
Right.
Or since no one else can do it, I'll complete the report myself, meaning I will do it without help. The action comes back to me.
Okay. And the major misuse of myself is using it as a direct replacement for I or me in subject or object positions, often in, again, a misplaced attempt to sound more formal or maybe more emphatic.
It's another classic attempt at linguistic elevation that just falls flat grammatically.
Yes.
You cannot use myself as a subject pronoun. You cannot say, myself and the team finished the project. That requires the subject pronoun I.
So it should be.
The correct phrasing is, the team and I finished the project. You're introducing two subjects, the team and I, requiring the subject pronoun I placed last.
Right. So we have the performer, I, the receiver, me, and the reflector, myself. Let's solidify all three roles in one final sequence using that breakdown provided in the source.
Okay, let's do it. Mark and I, subject, we schedule the meeting, but please send the final agenda to only me, object of the preposition to, and if no one else can finalize it, I'll do it myself. Reflexive, the action of finalizing comes back to I. Master that sequence, and you've pretty much mastered the trio.
Excellent. That nails it down. Hashtag tag outro. Wow, what a detailed exploration.
Yeah.
We really navigated 10 crucial linguistic distinctions today. We covered, let's see, structural rules, like the necessity of the hyphen in those adjective duration phrases. Usage rules, like the predictable nature of recur versus the randomness of reoccur. Contextual rules, like the difference between a boundary line and a functional lane. And finally, those essential grammatical function rules for subjects, objects, and reflexives with I, me, and myself.
We really tried to extract the absolute core knowledge from those sources you shared. These details, they might seem small individually, but collectively, they are the difference between communication that's just adequate and communication that sounds professional, precise, and clear.
Yeah.
By internalizing things like when a noun is countable, or why a phrasal verb like wash up prohibits a direct object, or how to correctly use an adverbial phrase like as such, you really gain immediate authority and, I think, confidence in your language use.
We took a deep dive into some of the most common stumbling blocks in the English language and hopefully provided a clear blueprint for avoiding them.
And that actually leads us back to that nuance we touched on earlier regarding real versus really, remember? We noted that sometimes what is technically incorrect, like using real good, is actually widely accepted, even common, influent, informal native speech. So for you, the learner, this raises a really fascinating and ongoing question. How do you strategically balance adhering strictly to grammatical precision, the kind of rules we've provided today, with the need to achieve fluent, natural communication that sometimes mirrors common social usage, even if it bends the rules? Where do you draw the line for yourself? And when is it acceptable, maybe, to knowingly choose the common way over the strictly correct way? That balance, that's perhaps the final frontier of linguistic mastery, finding your own comfortable place between absolute correctness and natural fluency.
That's a really powerful thought to leave with our listener. Thank you for guiding us through this essential deep dive today.
My pleasure. It was a great discussion.
We hope this accelerates your knowledge, and we look forward to the next one.